Good morning. So this will be your first online lectures. So online lecture, there are various options are available. Uh, there are synchronous methods and asynchronous methods of it. Synchronous methods like Zoom meeting. Lecture will be online and students will be online. But that will not be feasible for all of us. We are choosing a asynchronous method in which what we are doing, we are recording our lectures and that link will be sent to you and you have to see it according to your time. Okay. And one thing more, we will sending you one Google form that form you have to fill and submit. Okay. That will be your attender. So directly we will start with our lecture. In last lecture we have seen the optics of eye. So in this lecture we will start with the refractive errors. So in last lecture we have seen the light, properties of light, various natures of light, what is dual nature of light, what is mirror, what are lenses, what is reflection, what is refraction, what is total internal reflection. Okay, so all this is seen in last lecture. Okay, then we have also seen how the refraction occurs through a prism. Then at the last, we have seen the optical elements of the eye. So optical elements of the eye are responsible for the optical property of eye. So important optical elements of eye is cornea, antechamber, lens, vitreous, retina. So all these are the various optical elements of the eye. The most important optical surface of the eye is always anterior surface of the cornea. So all this we have seen in the last lecture. So in this lecture, we will start with the refractive error. So optical function of all these optical elements of the eye is to focus the incoming light rays on the light sensitive part of the retina, that is fovea. Okay, this is the function of these optical elements, but it always do not happen. So sometimes what happen, these incoming light rays, they are focused either in front of the retina or they are focused behind the retina, or sometimes what happened in one meridian they are focused at one point and in another meridian they are focused at different point. So there is no point focus. So on all these conditions in which the light rays are not focused at the light sensitive part of the retina is called ametropia or refractive. So what is ametropia? So ametropia is defined as a state of refractive error wherein the parallel rays of light coming from infinity are focused either in front or behind the light sensitive layer of the retina in one or both meridian. So ametropia is nothing but a refractive error. So there are different types of refractive error. One is myopia, second is hypermetropia, and third one is astigmatism. Okay. So what is emetropia? Emetropia is a state of no refractive error. Okay. In emetropia, what happens? The incoming light rays, they are focused exactly at the light sensitive part of the retina. But this is not 100% true. In all individuals, this do not occur. Okay. So emetropization is the process that occurs with the as the child grows. Okay. At birth, no one is emetropic. Remember. At birth, what axial length of eyeball is 18 millimeter, cornea is more curved, antechamber is more shallow, and at the birth, child is 2.5 diopter hypermetropic. And as the child grows, axial length will increase, cornea will be less curved, that is, will be flatter, antechamber depth increases. So, as the child grows, there is emetropization, and this emetropization is achieved at the age of 7 to 8 years. Okay, this is the picture showing various type of refractive error or ametropia. First, we can see a myopia, in which light rays are focused in front of the retina. Hypermetropia, light rays are focused behind the retina. In astigmatism, there is no point focus. In one meridian, they are focused at one point. In other meridian, they are focused at another point. So there is no point focus. Okay. So there are various components responsible for this ametropy or the refractive. So components responsible for this are cornea, obviously, antechamber depth, crystalline lens power, axial length. So all these factors are responsible for the emmetropization. Any defect in any one of these will lead to ametropia or the refractive error. Okay. So today we will start with myopia. Hmm. So myopia is also called nearsightedness. In Greek, myon means to close, opia refers to eye. It means these people prefer to see a near object. Okay, that is nearsightedness. The distant object they do not see clearly. That's why it is called myopia. Okay. It can be defined as a dioptric condition of eye in which the parallel rays of light coming from infinity are focused in front of the light sensitive layer of the retina with accommodation at rest. So you have to remember this definition, very important definition. Okay. So when this will occur, when the light rays will be focused in front of the retina, when think when either the refractive power or the total power of the eyeball is more, either due to more curved cornea, more curved lens, or if the cornea and lens is normal but the axial length is more. Yeah. Hmm? At this time, what will happen? The light rays will focus in front of the ray. So depending on this, myopia is categorized into different type, or the etiology of myopia can be a following type. Okay, it's axial myopia. Axial myopia is due to increased anteroposterior length, and is the commonest type of myopia. Next one is curvature myopia. This is due to increased curvature of cornea, lens, or both. Due to increased curvature, obviously power will increase, and this when the power of the cornea or the lens will increase, uh, obviously the total refractive power of eye will increase, leading to excessive convergence of the incoming rays. Okay, positional myopia is due to anterior displacement of the lens. Okay, index myopia is due to increased refractive index of the lens. Index myopia occurs usually in older individuals. As the age advances, there is sclerosis of the lens nucleus, and as the sclerosis increases, refractive index of the lens increases, leading to an index myopia. Another type of myopia is due to excessive accommodation. Excessive accommodation leading to excessive contraction of ciliary body. Hmm? Ciliary body contains ciliary muscles. And this excessive contraction of these muscles, there will be a relaxation of ciliary zonules. And when the ciliary zonules relaxes, lens acquired more curved surface. Anterior surface of the lens becomes more curved. And when the any surface becomes more curved, the power automatically increases. And the power increases, automatically the converging power will increase, leading to a myopia. And this is called myopia due to excessive accommodation, also called as a pseudomyopia, also called as a spurious myopia. So these are the five types of different types of myopia. Okay. Clinically, myopia can be categorized into again a different varieties. First one is congenital myopia. Second one is also simple myopia or developmental myopia. Third is pathological or degenerative myopia, and fourth one is acquired myopia. Okay, we will see one by one. So, what is congenital myopia? Congenital myopia is myopia at birth. Normally, what happens? Normally, the child is born hypermetropy. Hypermetropy of plus 2.5 diopter is the hypermetropia at birth. But here, instead of this, there is myopia at birth. But usually, these children are not diagnosed at that age, but they are diagnosed at the age of 2 to 3 years. And these are frequently seen in children who are premature, with who have birth defects like Marfan syndrome, homocystinuria. So this condition is common in children having premature birth. Okay, most of the time, error is unilateral. hmm, and when this is unilateral, it will lead to anisometropia. What is anisopia means? Aniso means not equal. So refractive error in one eye is different and refractive error in other eye is different. It is called anisometropia. And when this difference is more than 3 diopter, it is significant, and it is called anisometropia. Okay. And here error is usually 8 to 10 diopter, which mostly remains constant. Okay. If unilateral due to high anisometropia, there is strabismus and amblyopia. What is strabismus? Strabismus means squint. Amblyopia means there is diminution of vision. Okay. So congenital myopia again may be associated with other ocular findings, like cataract may be there, microphthalmus may be there, aniridia may be there. So this is all about the congenital myopia. It will be present at birth. It may be bilateral or unilateral. Usually it is unilateral, and when unilateral, it is called anisometropia, and this anisometropia leads to strabismus and amblyopia. Remember, hmm? And unilateral myopia prognosis is always poor, unguarded. Okay, what is the management? For management, early diagnosis, early correction, full cycloplegic refraction is very important. Hmm? But always remember, prognosis is always guarded. Okay, so this is all about congenital myopia. Hmm? Next is simple myopia. Hmm? Simple myopia is also called as a developmental myopia or school myopia. Okay, as the here if we see the clinical picture of these patients with simple myopia, these children are born hypermetropic at birth. At birth, okay. At birth, these children do not have any myopic picture. Okay. As the child grows, eyeball will grow. Hmm? And at the age of 8 to 10 years, what happens? This emmetropization will take place. Hmm? But what happens in the children? This normal mark is overshooted and there is increased growth of the eyeball. Hmm? Okay, and because of this increased growth in the eyeball, myopia will start appearing from the age of 8 to 10 years. But though there is increase in the axial length of eyeball, it is within the physiological error. So it is also because of this, it is called developmental myopia or school myopia. Hmm? Okay, about 29% of the general population have low myopia, that is less than 2 diopter. About 7% have moderate myopia, that is 2 to 6 diopter. Okay, so etiologically, there are various factors responsible for it. It is a normal biological variation. Inheritance is also important. So it is considered to be autosomal dominant, but some reports claim that recessive mode inheritance is also common. Okay. Again, remember, axial type of simple myopia is the most common type of myopia. Curvature type of simple myopia is less common, and if it is there, it is due to underdevelopment of the eyeball. Okay. Another theory responsible for the simple myopia is theory of excessive near work. Okay, so excessive near work is one of the theory. Okay, but the clinical picture, as I have told you, the children are born hypermetropic at birth. But, but but during the development, normal mark is overshooted, leading to a developmental myopia. Okay, so simple myopia begin at the age of 7 to 10 years, may increase during the years of growth, but until stabilizing around the mid-teens, usually at about minus 5 diopter huh, or less, and it never exceeds minus 8 diopter. Remember, so these children will have never minus more than minus 8 diopters of myopia. Okay. What are the symptoms? So common symptoms are poor vision for distance. The children will have poor vision for distance. Asthenopic symptom. What is asthenopia? These are varied symptoms due to ocular causes. Maybe headache, broache, eye may be there. Okay, watering may be there, itching may be there. So this is a group of symptoms. They are called asthenopic symptoms, and they are due to refractive error. Okay, there may be convergence weakness, exophoria. These are the other symptoms. So main symptoms is blurring of distant object. Okay, and one another is asthenopia, that is headache, broache. Okay, but the signs, we see the signs in these children. Antechamber is usually deep. Pupils are somewhat larger and bit sluggish. Fundus is normal. Remember, in simple myopia or developmental myopia, fundus is always normal. Rarely, very rarely, temporal crescent may be seen. Usually, the refractive error do not exceed minus 6 to 8 diopter. Sometimes, large and prominent eyes may be seen. Okay, so these are the signs that will be seen in the developmental myopia. Okay, another variety is pathological myopia. Hmm? Prevalence is around 2 to 3%. Pathological myopia is also called as progressive myopia or degenerative myopia. Okay. Etiologically, etiology, it so this myopia is due to rapid axial growth of the eyeball, which is outside the normal physiological variation. In school myopia or simple myopia, there is also increase in the axial length of eyeball, but this growth in the axial length is within the normal limit, remember. But what happens in pathological myopia, there is rapid growth of the eyeball and it is outside the physiological limit. Remember, this is the difference. And to explain this spurt in the axial growth, various theories have been put forth, such as hereditary factors or the genetic factors, and another theory is general growth process theory. Okay, the factor affecting general growth process will also affect the growth of eyeball. These are the two theories that have been put forth. Okay, so we'll see first why hereditary or the genetic factors are important, because this progressive myopia is seen to be a familial. Okay, this is seen to be a more common in Japanese, Chinese, Arabs, and Jews. Okay, and this is uncommon among Negroes, Nubians, Sudanese. Okay, so there is familial trait. Okay, and at present, high myopia is considered to be a sex-linked recessive disorder. Okay, simple myopia, autosomal dominant. Remember. Okay, and this is sex-linked recessive. Remember. Another theory that is being put forth by Agarwal and Khosla, that is multiple gene defect. Multiple gene defects are the responsible for the variable picture in pathological myopia. Just remember the name Agarwal and Khosla, a multiple gene defect theory. Okay. Second one, that is role of general growth factors. Hmm? Though they play a minor role, they cannot be denied in the progress of myopia. Hmm? Because lengthening of the posterior segment of globe commences only during the period of active growth. Okay, so during period of active growth, factor responsible for this growth also affects the growth of your eyeball. So what are those factors? Nutritional deficiency, debilitating diseases, endocrine disturbances. So all these factors will have effect on the general growth process. And similarly, this factor will affect your growth of your eyeball. So this is another theory that is being put forth for the explanation of pathological myopia. Okay. So what is the clinical picture that is different from simple myopia here? Obviously, symptoms are same. Defective vision. Defective vision, that is, but this is very much more. Okay, a considerable failure in the vision function, and there is uncorrectable loss of vision. There is uncorrectable loss. Muscovelitans are floaters. What are these? These people, when they look towards sky or bright light, they will see small black objects moving in their visual field. Okay, like ring shape, that could be arrow shape. Okay, these these are called floaters, and these are due to liquefied vitreous. Okay, so degeneration or the liquefaction of vitreous will cast their shadow on the retina, and this is responsible for these floaters. Okay. Another symptoms may be seen in high myopia or pathological myopia is night blindness, and it is usually seen in highly high myopia, that is highly progressed myopia, you can say, with marked CR degeneration. Okay, what are the signs? Again, the eyes are prominent, appearing elongated, and even simulating an exophthalmos. Cornea is large, antechamber is deep, pupils are larger and bit sluggish, and refractive air is it is more. Okay, and it increases as much as 4 diopter yearly, stabilizes at around age of 20, but occasionally may progress until mid 30s, and frequently results in myopia of 10 to 20 diopter. Remember. Okay. So what are the retinal changes in pathological myopia? In simple myopia, retina is usually normal. Rarely, hmm, rarely crescent may be seen. It is temporal crescent may be seen. But retinal changes in pathological myopia, they are very important. Okay. So optic disc in pathological myopia will appear large and pale, and at the temporal edge of this disc, there will be a characteristic crescent that is called myopic crescent. and this is due to bulging backward of posterior pole, which results in the separation of retina and choroid from the temporal disc margin, leaving an atrophied part through which sclera is seen as white area. So this optic disc crescent or the temporal crescent occurs. Why? Because there is excessive growth of the posterior segment, or the posterior segment will outpouch. Okay, so because of this outpouching of the posterior pole, what happens? The temporal retina and choroid get separated from the temporal margin of the optic disc. And because of this, underlying sclera is visible, and this is responsible for this crescent. Okay, and another important finding is supertraction crescent. So at temporal margin this will happen. At the nasal margin of disc, what happen? Again a crescentric we can say retina and the choroid at the nasal disc margin, they will override the disc. Okay, and this is called supertraction crescent. Okay, and this will lead to a blurring of disc margin. What we will see is there is blurring of the nasal disc margin. And this is due to overriding of the nasal retina and choroid, that is called supertraction crescent. So supertraction crescent appears at the nasal border of optic disc, while the crescent is at the temporal disc margin. Okay, another changes, degenerative changes, they are common in retina and choroid. Okay, so fundus will appear as a tigroid. So tigroid appearance of fundus is due to diffuse attenuation of RPE with visibility of large choroidal vessels. Okay, Foster Fuchs spots may be seen. These spots are raised circular pigmented lesions. What are these? These are pigmented lesions at the macula, and they are due to subretinal hemorrhages. Okay, in advanced cases, focal choroidal atrophy is very common, and because of this, there will be a visibility of large choroidal vessel and eventually the sclera. There may be a total retinal atrophy, particularly at the central area. Hmm. There may be associated lattice degeneration, snail track lesions. Okay, retinal tears, hemorrhages, retinal detachment also, they are common in pathological myopia. Okay, so here we can see optic disc, and at the temporal margin there you can see a crescentic white shadow, that is temporal crescent. Okay, and you can see a tigroid appearance of fundus. Okay, and this is due to degeneration of RP. Because of degeneration of RP, you can see a underlying choroidal vasculature. Okay, the choroidal vasculature contain mainly vessels. Okay, another picture is showing blackish spots. They are Foster's Fuchs spots. Okay, and they are due to subretinal hemorrhages. Okay, picture here again showing a, you can see fundus changes. Okay, to temporal myopic present. Okay, then peripapillary and macular degeneration, Foster Fuchs spots. Okay, you can see pictures. Okay, you Google सब pictures मिलेंगे तुमको, you can see there. Okay, another finding that will be seen with posterior stapulum. Posterior stapulum is an ectasia or bulging of posterior sclera due to focal expansion and thinning. It occurs in about third of the eyes with pathological myopia. It's virtually always peripapillary or involves macula. Stapuloma development can be associated with macular hole formation. Remember, degenerative changes also occurs in vitreous, such as liquefaction, vitreous opacities, PVD appearing as a vis reflex. Okay, so there will be a visual field contraction, and ring scotoma may be seen. So all these are the clinical pictures that will be seen in the myopia, pathological myopia. Remember, what are the complications that occurs in pathological myopia? RD is very common in pathological myopia. Foveal retinosis, complicated cataract, nuclear sclerosis, vitreous hemorrhage, choroidal hemorrhage, and thrombosis. Primary open angle glaucoma also common in pathological myopia. So these are the complications that may occur in pathological myopia. Okay. Systemic associations of high myopia. So high myopia is commonly seen in patients having Down syndrome, Stickler syndrome, Marfan syndrome, prematurity, Noonan syndrome. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Pierre-Robin syndrome. So these are the systemic associations of eye myopia. Another entity, that is clinical entity, is acquired myopia. In that, index myopia. Hmm? As I have told you, index myopia is due to sclerosis of the nucleus of your lens, due to nuclear sclerosis. It is seen in older individuals. Curvature myopia. Curvature myopia is due to excessive curvature of the cornea, or the corneal condition causing excessive curvature, that like corneal ectasias, and conical cornea. Positional myopia, condition producing anterosubluxation of the lens. Whenever there is anterosubluxation of the lens, cornea and the lens will be placed close to each other and the effective power will be more. Okay. Consecutive myopia. Consecutive myopia is due to surgical overcorrection of hypermetropia. Okay, it may be due to surgical overcorrection of hypermetropia, or it may be due to after a cataract surgery. We put a incorrect lens. After a cataract surgery, we put a more powered lens, then it will cause a consecutive myopia. What is pseudomyopia? Also called artificial myopia, also called spurious myopia. As I have told you, this is due to excessive accommodation of the eye. Okay, there are various factors is responsible for the excessive accommodation. Okay, another entity is drug-induced myopia. So drugs like pilocarpine, ecothiopate, diisopropyl fluorophosphate, sulfonamides, these are the drugs responsible for the drug-induced myopia. What these drugs do? All these drugs are cholinergic drugs, and as you know, cholinergic drugs will cause contraction of ciliary muscles, and because of this contraction of ciliary muscles, automatically zonules will relax. Relaxation of zonules lead to uh, lens will acquire more curved surface, leading to drug-induced myopia. Okay. We will see treatment of myopia. So where there are various modalities. Okay, optical treatment, surgical treatment, general measures, visual hygiene, low vision aids. We will see one by one. Optical treatment. So this is common treatment. Optical treatment is the most common treatment, and we prescribe which type of lenses? Concave lenses. Why? If we see the optical condition of eye in myopia, what happens? There is excessive convergence of incoming light rays. So our aim is to diverge this incoming light rays to focus at the light sensitive part of the letter. So what we do? We put a diverging lens in the form of spectacle or contact lens in front of the eye so as to diverge these rays slightly and to focus these rays on the light sensitive part of the retina. Okay. So dictum here is to put the appropriate concave lens and minimum acceptance providing maximum vision should be prescribed. Never overcorrect myopia. So myopia is never overcorrected. Either it is undercorrected or should be given a full correction. Okay. So image formation of myopia. As I told, the image formation in myopia. Okay. What happens in myopia? There is excessive convergence. Light rays are converge in front of the retina, and after putting a concave lens, we can see these light rays are focused on the fovea. This is the image formation. Okay. So there are various guidelines for correcting myopia. Okay, children's younger than 8 years of age should be fully correction. Full correction should be given to them, and instructed to use their glasses constantly. Hmm? Adult younger adult younger than 30 years of age. They also accept full correction. Full correction can be given to them also. But never overcorrect. Even in children, even in adults, never overcorrect. Okay, remember. Older than 30 years of age, not able to tolerate full correction or 3 diopter, and they have not worn glasses before. So individuals who are more than 30 years of age and who have not worn glasses earlier, they should never be given a full correction. They should be always given a under correction. They will not tolerate full correction. Remember. Okay. Prescribe them full correction with which patient has comfortable. Okay. Less than full correction should be given. For correction, high myopic individual also they not tolerate full correction. For them also under correction is always better. Okay. Modes of prescribing concave lenses. There are various modes. As you know, most common mode is spectacles. Another one is contact lenses. Hmm. What are the advantages of spectacles? What are the disadvantages of spectacles? What are the advantages of contact lenses? What are different type of contact lenses that you have to read? Hmm. Contact lenses is another topic. We will see it later on. Okay. So these are the two main modes: is prescribing a spectacle or contact lenses. General measures like balanced diet rich in vitamins and proteins, early management of debilitating diseases. These are the general measures. Okay. Visual hygiene. This is to avoid astronomic symptoms mainly. Hmm. So adequate illumination should be there during work. Clarity of print should be there. Adequate position should be there. Adequate distance should be there between you and book. So all these are the visual hygienes. They are mainly aimed for the uh, avoiding the astronomic symptoms associated with refractive. Okay. Low vision aids. They are prescribed the patients having progressive myopia with advanced degenerative changes where useful vision cannot be obtained with spectacles and contact lenses. Okay. So these are given to the individuals in which spectacles and contact lenses are not useful. Okay. So these individuals who have advanced myopic disease. Okay. Prophylaxis. As such, there is no prophylaxis, but nowadays, myopin eye drops, 0.01% atropine eye drops are started. They are given to as a once daily. Okay, and they are um, found to halt the progress of pathological myopia. So it is a newer modality of treatment. That is 0.01% atropine eye drops once daily. Okay. Normal atropine ointment is 1%. That we use for the cycloplegic refraction or the treatment of uveitis, etc. That is 1%. But here, for to halt the progress of pathological myopia, atropine is 0.01%. It is one newer modality for the myopia. Okay. Another thing we can do for prophylaxis is genetic counseling. Okay, because as you know there is a role of genetics here. There is a role of hereditary. Okay, so genetic counsel for the people having pathological myopia not to marry with a pathological myopic people, because families with one myopic patient parent, there is a chance of 23 to 40% that their children will be myopic. Okay, and when both the parents are myopic, this chance increases to 33 to 66%. That's why it is always advisable for this patient to not to marry a person having pathological myopia. And if both the parents are having a pathological myopia, chances of children being born with pathological myopia will be more. Okay, this is another method. Another modality for the pathological myopia or the myopia is refractive surgery. There are different types of n number of refractive surgeries. Incisional procedures are like radial keratomy, lamellar procedures, hmm, like fridge keratomyelitis of Barraker, non-fridge keratomyelitis in situ, automated lamellar keratoplasty. Okay, and laser breast procedure. They are commonly done nowadays. As you know, PRK is there. That is photorefractive keratectomy, laser in situ keratomyelitis, laser subepithelial keratomyelitis, C-LASIK, E-LASIK, a number of things are there. Okay. Uh, in that uh, in that refractive surgery, another surgery is intraocular refractive surgeries. Hmm? Phakic refractive lenses. So in that, phakic means normal lens is not removed. In front of the normal natural lens, another lens is put. That is called, that procedure is called phakic refractive lenses. And another is refractive lensing exchange, in which normal lens is extracted. So we call it cataract surgery is done and new lens is put. Okay, that is a refractive lens exchange. Another topic will be there on this refractive surgery, on which topic it is. Okay, so just remember the names. And commonly performed procedure nowadays are C-LASIK, E-LASIK. Okay. Prognosis of myopia. Simple myopia prognosis is always good. Here is usually less than -6 diopter, and it usually stabilizes at around 21 years of age. In pathological myopia, prognosis is always guarded, and there is always a possibility of progression leading to a severe CR degeneration and leading to a blindness. And also there are chances of retinal detachment, vitreous hemorrhage. Okay, so in pathological myopia, visual prognosis is always guarded. Remember. Okay.